Art Bartner, you've been here 43 years. You've outlived a number of football coaches, school presidents, just about everybody on the campus. You're probably as well known as anybody is now, or to all the alums. Do you reflect on that, or is that something that surprises you to hear?
I do not reflect upon it. It doesn't surprise me. But, I'm just a band director who just goes out and loves to work with the students. I mean, that's how I picture myself.
43 years of that. That adds up to about 1 million games that you've been involved with, right?
Yes, and I've been told along, it's a journey. It's a journey, and in my case, it's been so much fun. I don't want the journey to stop. I know coaches come and go and presidents come and go, but I've been fortunate enough that I can continue my journey until I fall off the ladder.
Fall off the ladder. Let's go back to your 1971. You come to USC. You're an unknown. I think you're greeted by one of the worst bands in America. Tell us about what the evolution was to becoming the best band in America.
Well, that's a great question. And when I was offered the USC job, we had just played Michigan, I think it was, my alma mater, in the Rose Bowl, and we won the game. And we had O.J. Simpson. We had a great football team. But the Michigan band was so far superior to the USC band that it was. I mean, this was the buzz back in Ann Arbor. Yeah. And I couldn't understand why, you have a great university, great football team, great school of music, a white horse. How come the band doesn't fit into this picture? And I, being a young buck, just barely 30 years old, I could conquer the world. And I couldn't understand. I can come here and I can really shape this band up. I can turn this band around. So that was my incentive.
Did they come looking for you, or did you apply?
Yes, no, they came looking for me because nobody wanted the job. See, all the local guys who had high school guys, junior college guys who had great bands, they knew how poor the USC band was, and they knew politically that you could never build a band at USC. And I, being 2,000 miles away, really never kind of got that picture. So I thought it was a great opportunity for me.
When you got here and saw the state of things, did you want to go back home, or did you?
There's a ton of stories. No, I never wanted to go home because my wife wanted to get out of Michigan so badly that and she fell in love with California. Yeah. She just I couldn't, but I can remember a funny story that to get your doctorate, you have to go back to Ann Arbor and go through your oral exam and the final bit. So, during a break, I went into the restroom, and my mentor, William D. Ravelli, pulls up to the stall, and there he and I are together. And he leans over and he goes, Art, why'd you take that USC job? Your high school band was better than the USC band. And I just kind of stammered and stuttered and didn't know what to say. But that's the only time I've been back to Ann Arbor, and
is that right?
I'm a Trojan for life.
Your band has such great morale. I mean, those kids look like they have more fun than just about anybody in the school. And it wasn't that way when you come. How did that change? How did you make it happen?
There's a couple of reasons. Number one, that the band, which was 80 strong, we're now 300 plus. Yeah. And the problem, the 80 were great players, but they were predominantly music majors who had to be on the field to receive their scholarships. And so it wasn't like they really wanted to be out there. They wanted to be playing with the symphony orchestra, which they should be. So there was a morale problem to begin with. The second was that they had no identity. The whole idea of putting on a helmet, playing the fight songs, it was a chore instead of representing the cardinal and gold. The third thing, I was befriended by an assistant coach who you knew very well, Marv Goo. And it was interesting. I can remember those early days on campus. You look for a friend. You look for a mentor. You look for somebody that, give you a little encouragement. I couldn't find anybody. Not from the vice president of the school, not from the dean of the School of Music. You go down the line. Marv Goo took me under his wing and he said, Art, this is what this band needs to be. They need to be Trojans. They need to have that spirit. They need to bleed cardinal and gold. And this kind of like started to turn around. And the fourth thing, which kind of goes back to Michigan, I had this great vision that I was going to make USC the Michigan of the West. It didn't fit. Yeah. It didn't fit. What you can get away with in the Midwest doesn't work on the West Coast. And it took me that first couple of years to figure that out, to be more student involvement, to play more contemporary tunes, get these kids involved in our halftime selections. At Michigan, it was a dictatorship. Yeah. So it took me a while for this to evolve.
Well, I remember you, when I was coaching here, you were a hard-nosed band director. I mean, boy, I used to come out, I don't know if you remember, but I used to come out and watch your thing and say, man, this guy's mean. and yet it was, there was an energy there that anybody could learn from, being in charge of any group, and achieving that had to take some time, and it had to be challenged. Did you go out and try to recruit students in the student body?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. The recruitment was, excuse me. First of all, there were no women in the Trojan marching band. I never understood this because I had a high school band for 7 years, and the women played as well and marched as hard and had as much spirit as the men. So I never, it's kind of an antiquated rule that no women can be on the football field. Yeah. I'm going, come on.
Stupid, yeah.
I didn't get that. So after I, took control of the scholarships, I invited women to join the band, and this really changed the whole vibe. It made the road trips a lot more fun.
But if you're a student and you want to try out for the band, do you have to play for you, or do you judge them, or if they're warm bodies, did you let them in then?
No. That's the system that again evolved those early years was where the student leaders, which are selected by the students, what we call the section leaders. They're in charge of each section of the band, trumpets, trombones, so on and so forth. And it's really their section. Now, when a student comes down to try out, they really have to try out in front of the section leader, and now we have teaching assistants and assistant directors. But it's really, I don't make those decisions. They have to play individually, they have to march and play. It's a pretty intensive tryout.
Now, when you were first here, did you get out there and show them how to go right turn and all that stuff?
Absolutely, absolutely. I've been caught, and well, now I've kind of aged out of that. But when I was younger, I used to get right in there. I used to show them the dance steps. I was crazy. There's a clip on ESPN which has me running on the field and showing the steps, and acting like I'm 17 years old.
Well, that's what I remember when I used to come out and watch you. You were a bit of a maniac back then.
Yeah.
Well, you saved my job when I came here. Tell us that story, if you will. It was, and I needed the help, boy, at that time.
Well, it's a great story, and I think it was 1974, 75, in the mid 70s, and you had one of these great teams, rated, ranked number 1 in the country, and it was, maybe it was your first year, one of your first years.
It was my first year, my first game.
Wow. And we were opening up against Missouri, and basically you got shellacked.
Oh, did we ever?
And Marv Gu had started this tradition, this relationship with the team, and before every home game we would play for the team and so on. And it was kind of a spur of the moment deal that, boy, the team's down. Everybody's throwing darts at you. The press is on top of you. You're like out of there after the first game, and we just spurred a moment. Hey, let's take the troops over and have some fun with the team. Pick up the morale and have at it.
Wow! And you came through that gate in the middle of practice. Now you didn't wait till the end or anything. You came right in the middle. And I'm all of a sudden, and there were people, press there, that were, saying this is this guy's last days, and you come through, and the band starts playing, and then, do you ever remember the girl's name?
No.
Anyway, she puts down her instrument and starts dancing with the player.
Yeah.
And pretty soon everybody's dancing with the players, and I'm saying, and I'm trying to find you.
To put a stop to this.
To put a stop to this thing. I said, hell, I'm going to get fired before my second game. But something happened, and it was it loosened us up, and we won all the rest of the games and go to the Rose Bowl.
Well, there's this balance of being just really strict and having very high standards, but still having the freedom of expression. That's some gal all of a sudden goes, in 99% of the schools it's team, band, and the twain they'll never meet. And here, not only are we meeting, but we're interacting, and it's like, and this tradition still goes on today.
Absolutely. In a number of my games, I can remember being in Dallas the day before we played in the Cotton Bowl. Your band was on. Remember the hotel had all the balconies, and the band and the manager was threatening to call the cops, and the band and the horse was in there. I mean, and everybody had great fun. When did you know that you were going to be have a better band than Michigan?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question.
I know.
But my first Rose Bowl, which was the Rose Bowl of '73 against Ohio State, we had a great football team, and this is like the end of the third year, and you're looking for a sign that this is going to turn around. Forget about Michigan. I'm just looking for something that's going to turn this thing around. And this halftime show, and you probably missed it because you're in the locker room, we had a singer by the name of Diana Ross. Big time. She was in a movie, Lady Sings the Blues. She was up for an Academy Award. Big time. And anyway, so I struggling, and she came out at halftime, and she sang the great Gershwin tune, Our Love Is Here to Stay, from the movie. And this big, I mean, all of a sudden there was some attention to the Trojan marching band. All of a sudden, it wasn't just the band, was sweep them under the carpet. All of a sudden, we had kind of arrived on a very big stage. And so this was kind of a jumping off moment for me.
Now that stage has gone all over the world, hasn't it?
Yes,
And,
yes.
I mean, you've taken that, you've started there, and
Yeah.
you know, you're famous all over. Tell us about some of those, and what really got to you. I mean, was there any place where you said, "Man, this is it"?
Oh, I think everybody has a bucket list, has a dream.
Yeah.
Every performer, you know, I mean, and the obvious thing that I, being an East Coast guy and, you know, brought up in Jersey outside of New York City, you know, it's like, if you want to make the big time, well, you got to play Broadway. You know, somehow, you know, you got to sing, you got to dance, you got to play the trumpet in the pit orchestra, you got to, and this last football season, the Syracuse game, we did a rally in Times Square and just packed with Trojans. It was like New Year's Eve, Cardinal and Gold, and it was just a great moment. Another moment was playing on the Great Wall of China.
Yeah,
You know,
you know.
you've heard about this all your life, and the fact that they you know you have to deal with the Chinese government, and it's very strict. You know, they're not, you know, they're not fooling
they're
around.
serious, yeah.
And they don't understand American
Yeah.
college kids, you know, all the hijinks they don't get that. But they were willing to close down the wall for about 5 minutes so that we could run up on the wall, play conquest, take a picture, and run back off. And that was a great moment.
Those moments, yes. The marching in the Rose Parade, that's kind of tough, isn't it?
Yes, it's kind of tough, and a lot of band directors, you know, they you know, get a booth and they sit with the athletic director. And me, I have marched every one of those 17 Rose Bowls. My record is 12-5. Pretty good record. I think there's a lot of coaches.
I'd take it.
But the thing with the Rose Parade, and what I tell my guys, is that first mile and a half that every TV network
in the world,
covers that parade. And the visibility for not only the band, but for the university, you can't replace that.
No.
So, you know, this is why you work hard, and you know, you play those fight songs and out of a football context, and the fact that the audience is so vast, and that's why you do that. Now, the other 3.5, 4 miles is kind of a snooze.
Tough, yeah. But now, on a Saturday morning, your band gets up early, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah. And that's kind of an old Michigan trick, because you know what, college kids, you're not sure what they're doing the night before. Well, maybe we do know. You know, they're out partying and having a good time, but 7 o'clock in the morning, you've got to be on that field, horn out, ready to go, and yeah, our slogan is game day, and I'll go from section to section. You know, I don't know if I get them fired up, but it's basically the importance. You work hard all week for this game. It's about this game, and it's about going out and great performance, supporting the team. And then I bring the drum major, he follows me, and he does the rah-rah, the pep talk, and you know, some of his language cannot be repeated in this interview, but it's so it's kind of like a 1-2 punch that we do that morning, and then we go out, and after the guys warm up, we go out and we review our show.
Well, and you know, most of my time at SC, I was with the team, so we were sequestered away from the everybody. But in the last few years, I've been part of those tailgate groups, you know, drinking the Bloody Marys and having fun. And the scene when the band comes by any of these groups, you know, and I bet you there are 1,000 kids every year that get to love USC just when they see the band. Their parents are holding them up on their shoulders, and here comes the band, you know, because at that age, that's what you identify with. And
I really think this is this is what's great about USC. And I should say that yesterday my granddaughter got accepted by USC.
Wow.
And here's an example of somebody, since she's about that big, just grew up being a Trojan. That's her dream, to go to USC.
Will she be in the band?
She has no talent. She has other talents than musical ones. But this, I think the band is a great ambassador.
Oh, absolutely.
And we have a whole ritual, just like the football team. You know, before the game, we start at 2 hours before the game, and we do a concert in front of Heritage Hall. We march over to the Associates, and we do another concert. Then we march in front of Bovard, and we do a third concert. And then we're the Pied Piper, and we kind of weave through campus. And a tradition that I know you don't know is that at the corner of Exposition, there's 3 flagpoles, and we kick those flagpoles for good luck. Now, there's not a Trojan on that campus, and they go by that flagpole who doesn't kick them.
Okay,
And this was started by some kid in the band who thought it would be funny to
That's
kick,
the way
and it's
you do.
become this tradition now. And we cross the street and we march over, and we have all these kind of quirky traditions. And the other one that's kind of interesting that most people don't know is that after the team is all out of the locker rooms and are warming up, we run the tunnel. We don't march, but we run screaming and hollering. It's that energy that you hope goes out on that field and gets that team pumped up, and then the drums start.
The tradition that I loved the most was, with about 2 minutes left in the game, when we had the game under control, I used to try to catch your eye, and when I caught your eye, you immediately went up with Conquest, and we, in a very arrogant manner, started doing that, and the whole stadium, and then coming over to the band after the game and playing. Those are some very emotional times.
There's a great John Robinson story that we're in the Rose Bowl of, I think it's 1995. Keyshawn Johnson was the most valuable player. And after the game, Len Swan, my favorite football player, is interviewing you and Keyshawn. So you got the 3 Trojan icons on the field, and Len's trying to do these interviews, and we're pumping Conquest. And I'm saying to myself, okay, John, quit this stuff, John, when you come on. And then you say on national television, well, Len, I'd like to talk to you, but I got to run over to the band. It's on national television. And end of interview. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
That was
and because it became something you had to do and for fans, it's that. Tell me about Tusk. I love Tusk. I've heard it 1,211 times, and I still love it. How did it start?
It's like the 4th fight song. After Fight On, Tribute to Troy, Conquest, Tusk, and it goes back to 1979, and Mick Fleetwood is over in Germany, and he hears German band in a parade, and he says, well, the next album we got to put a marching band. So we get the call. He calls me personally, invites me down. We go to the studio. There's not a guy that can read music. And here I'm this schooled guy, and I said, well, show me their notes, show me the tune. So no notes, they start playing the tune. And then we took that tune, and Tony Fox, my longtime arranger, we make this arrangement. We go into Dodger Stadium. It was one of the first MTV videos. We march in from the outfield. We march around and make a whole big thing out. And we record this to the track live outside. And this is like April. So it goes away, and you go, this is a great experience. Nothing will ever happen to it. And then I'm driving to school one day, and on the radio, it's like, oh, here's Tusk by Fleetwood Mac featuring the Trojan marching band. I'm going,
Yeah. Oh,
whoa. And then this became a #1 hit in the country.
Did he give you 20% of the royalties, or?
No, it doesn't work that way.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, but we got a nice stipend for it.
Yeah.
But the legs of that tune, and I'll give you two examples. In 1997, we got to do their dance album, and we got to close. It was filmed at Warner Brothers, and we got to close and march out in the middle of Tusk, just march in, and that only sold 4 million copies, and it was a video and a whole thing. And then to show you the longevity, just since January, we recorded the music for a cue in this movie, Crudes, which just came out. It was the top movie of the weekend, $44 million. I did not get the 20%. But in this movie, it's about cavemen, and cavemen are going out and searching for food, and they find a dinosaur egg, and that becomes the metaphor for a football. And what happens is every time, throw a pass, catch it, and run, they play 4 bars of Tusk. So they say, well, why are studio musicians playing this? Let's bring the marching band in. And we recorded that 4 minutes and 17 seconds.
That's great. Marching bands all over the country copy it, don't they? I mean, I hear it when I go to other games and such, so that's great. The Olympic Games had to be one of the highlights of your life, being was that a 1,000-piece band that you were the director?
That was an 800-piece band. Kids, one of the goals was to get a kid from all 50 states. And we were able to achieve that. I mean, Alaska and Rhode Island were the toughest calls. And the nucleus was the USC band. I think we had 125 guys. And our opening show was Music of America. So it was a medley of every patriotic tune, John Philip Sousa, that you ever wanted to hear. And it's one of my fondest moments in this business. And it's probably the finest band performance of all time. Oh. And one of the reasons is that it was produced. In other words, they came out and they filmed every move. They mic'd it. I mean, it wasn't like, well, now they hardly cover the bands at all. But it isn't like, well, the band goes out and, hey, you're on your own. And if we get 15, 20 seconds, that's a lot. But they went out and for, 5-10 minutes, they picked the shots, high shots, low shots, individual. I mean, they choreographed this and they produced it like a TV show. And it was just unprecedented.
Of course, we all followed it, and because of you and all of that and such. People that were here with you that either mentored you or you mentored them or were friends over all these years. Talk about them.
Oh yeah, it's this journey which we've talked about. Along the way, there's key people. Obviously, you're one of them. But starting with Marv, because he was, I laugh because he was the only friend that I had on this campus. Scary. Now, going on from there, John Hubbard, Jack, I know was a
president of the university at that time. Yes,
and he was important because he not only hired me, but he helped me get promoted to an associate professor. And we have to stop and tell our famous Jack Hubbard a story because it's one of my favorites, and you can help me with this. But we were in Hawaii, and I think you had another great team. And what was it, 78?
Yeah, we were in contention for the national championship,
right?
And playing Hawaii. And our quarterback was not playing in the game, and Hawaii was a pretty good team. And I think we had about 15 penalties called on us. But so it was a tight game, and it came right down to the end. And Jack Hubbard, who loved to be on the sideline and occasionally expressed himself in a non-academic sense. And we intercept the ball to kind of ice the game, and he screams a couple of words that the official turned around, gave him a 15-yard. Gave us a 15-yard penalty, and gave them the ball back, which was you shouldn't do. And I didn't know who to go after. I wanted to go after President Hubbard and yell at him, but he was running down the sideline trying to hide.
Right.
And I wanted to go after the official. So what I should have done is called you and had you get one and I get the other one.
Well, it's interesting because I didn't really get what was going on. But I saw Jack Hubbard running.
Yeah.
And when I saw the flag, it didn't take long to put two and two together what was going on. So we won the game.
And I loved him, as you did. Jack
Yes.
Hubbard was fabulous. Yeah. And who else? Other people.
Oh, another key guy who I just adored was Neil Pings.
Yeah.
He was the provost, and he and his wife Marjorie just loved the band, and he did a couple of wonderful things for me. He took my budget from the School of Music into his office, and basically the band had grown too big, and we had become too expensive for the School of Music, and rightfully so, because their money needs to go to the opera and the orchestra and so on. The marching band, that's really a university organization. So it was Neil who, really turned our finances all around. And the great story is that I convinced Neil one year to guest speak at the band banquet. Now, the band banquet is not a normal banquet. It's a student-run thing, and it's like total chaos. I mean, it's kids just having fun. And Neil gets up there, and and he's got another event. So he's in his tuxedo, and he's got all his medallions. I mean, it's a serious thing. So I got the kids to be quiet, and I prep them on and say, okay, you got to respect this man. I got it quiet. So the first thing he does, he reaches into his pocket and he pulls out a pair of sunglasses and he puts on these sunglasses. Oh, the place just erupted and couldn't get control of those kids ever again. So it was just a great moment. And
he was a great Trojan.
Yeah, he really was.
Pete Carroll had to be fun to work with, wasn't he? Pete had one of the great coaches and was a fun-loving guy, wasn't he?
Yeah. It's and again, I've gotten to know every coach at USC, and Pete was just special because he made it fun. Pete would be out dancing with the girl. He was part of it. He just during the warm up at football. Here he's back at Notre Dame. Biggest game of the year. Pete's there throwing balls into the football, into the band. Just see if he hit a tuba player. And he was just his energy. The lessons that I learned was that you can't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
He and I talked several times, and you throw a pass, and you're all along, and do you want your player thinking, oh my goodness, if I drop this ball, 90,000 people are going to boo me. No, you want the guy to be relaxed. It's funny, this ball's floating in the air, and I'm free, and touchdown. And that was, I can remember a rally. Talking about rallies. They were staying at the Diplomat Hotel in Florida before the Orange Bowl. They're playing Oklahoma. Yeah. Oklahoma's #1 national championship. We have a rally in a room about the size of this table. And when I say a rally, it's band, team, boosters, just wall to wall. But it's just like there's no room for me to conduct. It's just, but the energy in it. And I'm going like this. I'm saying to myself, this is the worst rally I've ever been part of. It's just, everybody's sitting on top of each other, out of control. And they go out the next day, and they just kick Oklahoma
51 to 4 or something.
It's just
like
ridiculous.
that,
So it's kind of like your Missouri story a little bit. And I'm saying, geez, maybe there's a lesson here that these go out and are so loose and relaxed, and it's.
Oh, I believe totally in that, and not thinking about yourself, being involved, is thinking we're a part of a group, helps you a lot. When they put your statue up now, where do you want that statue?
I don't.
I'm just kidding, but I'm not. I mean, you're one of the legendary figures in the history of the school, and it would be great if you put the statue up, the band could come and throw stuff at it.
Well, it's for me, I'm very thankful for the support that this band receives. It's all about these kids. Don't give me anything. Don't build me a statue, but whatever you can do for these kids. I mean, the uniforms on our back come from money raised by the alumni. The horns we play, the trips back to Notre Dame. I mean, it goes on and on. It's really the Trojan family that have supported these bands. So my answer is, instead of wasting your money on a statue, put money into this band, put money into these kids.
Well, we can build a cheap statue, one that doesn't cost too much.
Okay. I can go with that.
Well, what's ahead? You're just getting started in this career. Do you see anything changing, or do you? It's. I think I've learned so much from Marv and from the coaches, and the one thing I've learned is that you always go back. After a season, you always go back and you start to tweak. You always look at things. And if you don't look at things and try to improve and tweak it and change it, then you start going downhill. And every year in January, we turn over leadership. We bring in a new group of section leaders. And I start getting feedback, and each one of them's got to stand up basically in front of me and their peers and say, well, we like this, and this, but, this, not so good. And then I have an inside group of assistant directors and about 5-6 guys, and we take their ideas and we sit down and we talk about them and say, well, let's try to implement this. Let's try to improve. It's always about how can we play better? How can we march harder? Can we have more spirit? So on and so forth. And obviously, it's very important to me is that we are representatives of the University of Southern California. I know the football team gets the same message. And this is on the field, off the field. And in bands, I'm getting a little bit serious, but bands this past year have gotten into trouble. Yes.
Florida A&M.
Serious trouble, yeah.
Serious trouble. And then, I could go through a half a dozen schools that have got into trouble for hazing. So, I mean, I'm just all over this. And I preach to my guys when these freshmen comes in, you're the teacher. You're the mentor. You teach them the fight songs. You teach them the marching stuff. You teach them what it is to be a Trojan. You become the Marv Goo. And it's about this kind of bringing them into our fold, making them part of our family. It's not about, beating them up and calling them names. That's old-fashioned. So we talk about that.
Is there one piece that you play that you like the best?
Yeah, that's like saying which Beethoven symphony do you like the best? Well, it's the last one I played. I love them all. I really do. And you talk to football players. I think when they hear Conquest, they get these fingers up there. When they hear Fight On, all of a sudden it goes back to, well, we scored a touchdown. Fight on. And tribute to Troy, the defensive guys. Oh, I made a good hit. Marv Goo brought in this tune, All Right Now.
All right now.
And it became, it was like a Marv Goo tune. He just liked this tune. And so we play when we recover a fumble, intercept a pass, defense. You get this tune. And the players get excited, the crowd gets excited, and this chemistry is just, I don't think you can beat it any place in the country.
One last question. Did you ever go back to the director of the Michigan band, Ravelli? Was that?
Yes.
And did you shake hands with him once he knew that you had the best band?
There's a great story because I was always kind of a renegade kind of guy. I was an athlete. I loved jazz. I was in a fraternity. I was president. And he said, Bartner, you'll never amount to because you're not devoted enough to music. I was doing all this other stuff, and then when I took the USC job, oh my goodness. And then you flash forward 15 years, and here I had the Olympic band.
Oh, boy.
And, then I saw him at a conference, in Chicago, and he put his arm around me and just said, you know what, I'm so proud of you. You had the best band I've ever seen. Talking about the Olympic band. So I had my moment of redemption with William D. Ravelli.
We played Michigan in the Rose Bowl in that era. And was he the band director then, or he retired?
No, he had retired. But that was a wonderful moment for me. Or I'm trying. My dates get mixed up. But I think the first time, it might have been '79, where we beat Michigan, my alma mater, for the first time. I love that, and obviously, and the big question was, well, are you going to root for Michigan? Who are you going to root for? I said, well, he said, no, you cut me open, and Cardinal and Gold is going to, that's old stuff to me, but I remember, here we beat Michigan, and I'm about. And I can remember running into George Cavender, who was kind of the drill sergeant back when I went into school, who took over for William D. Ravelli. And his remark was like, well, I know you won the game, but your band will never be as good as ours. And I'm going like, come on, George, show a little class here. But I just walked away.
Some of those Michigan guys learn slowly, right?
Right.
I loved the Michigan band because they were great in a Michigan fight song. Bo Schembechler was a good friend of mine. So, any last thoughts? Any one thing?
Well, it's just, I'll play off the fight songs because there's really three great fight songs: Fight On, The Victors, and of course the Notre Dame fight song. And the fun part for me is I played the Victors for 4 years through my undergraduate, and now my student is the director of the Notre Dame band.
Oh, really?
Dr. Ken Dye.
Oh,
he was with me the first 5-6 years back in the 70s, and we have a moment, and I think kind of a theme that's run through this interview is that there's this journey, and along the journey there's people that touch your life.
Right.
And then there's these moments, these just wonderful moments. And one that I have is back at South Bend, Indiana, and I get to conduct the national anthem. And Ken walks out from the Notre Dame sideline. I walk out from the USC, and here we are. Everybody thinks these are adversaries. These are guys that hate each other. Blah, blah, blah. And we have this big hug right in the middle of the field, and then we laugh, a joke, and then I get serious with the national anthem. But that's I'm just so proud of him
Okay.
that he's become so successful and at a great university and has a great band and a great fight song.
Yeah. That contrast of the blue and the kind of the gray scene at Notre Dame and the red, the band all dressed in red, and that's
So if we have time left,
we do.
we have to talk about the Notre Dame experience.
Let's do.
Because it was Marv Goo's favorite game. It was like big man against big men, men against men. It was this kind of game, and my story is we had beaten them at a very tough game and had pulled it out at the very end. And as you know, they have a tunnel that's about like this. And after the teams are off the field and so far, and then the band gets to march through to go out and get on their buses. And the rule is, well, there's no playing. There's no playing. You just got to go through. And so we go through and we stop. I'm always in trouble. So we stop and we play Conquest. Marv comes out. Maybe I saw Marv and he egged me on. It's probably a better story. But he goes back in and he gets the whole team. This is in Notre Dame. It's this sacred place. Brings the whole team out on this little tiny balcony. Remember the and the whole team half undressed it, and we're playing Conquest. And then their team starts to straggle out.
After they're taking showers and all that.
Right. So so then we're done, and then Marv comes, leans over, and he goes, we got him. We got him. And then he goes on, and he elaborates where the band marches out of the tunnel, and the sky turns to cardinal and gold. The trees are cardinal and gold. The band has their helmets in the air and the horns, and it's the cardinal and gold. And he gets so emotional.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's
great. Now you got to tell the leprechaun story.
Oh boy, and I love this. This sums you up, and I don't. I'm telling it secondhand, but you're at halftime. Notre Dame up on the ladder. The band is right in front of you. The song girls are down here, and the leprechaun comes in and lies on his back on the ground and is teasing the song girls in kind of an obscene way. And so you yelled for him to get out of there, and nobody can hear you. The band's playing, so you come down off the ladder, and now you're chasing the leprechaun all around the stadium. Yeah. Now I'm a little disappointed that you couldn't catch him.
I couldn't catch him.
But that sums you up, and I don't know that USC's ever had a better representative of the university than you, or anybody that's brought more pleasure to so many of us Trojans. You're the best.
Well, thank you, John, and you're a Trojan icon, and I'm so pleased that you've returned to the university, and you bring so much joy and great memories to so many Trojans.
Got to come so I can hear the band.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.